Thank you, Madam Chair. Over the past year, the Trump administration has overseen an attack on our public lands and on our nation's strong conservation ethic that I believe is unprecedented. This budget and Secretary Zinke's actions, I think, represent an abandonment of the Secretary's stewardship responsibility of our public resource. In 1903, the Supreme Court described the Secretary of Interior as, quote, the people's guardian over our public lands, end quote. And Secretary Zinke assured us during his confirmation hearing that he would manage the Interior Department like a Teddy Roosevelt conservationist. I believe his actions and public policies have been the exact opposite. In the past year, President Trump and Secretary Zinke have abandoned the responsibility of stewardship of our public lands and undermined the public trust by removing over 2 million acres of the Bears Ears National Monument and Grand Staircase in Utah. It has proposed opening up drilling on the outer continental shelf waters to oil and gas leasing in places that the United States has previously turned down. It's suggesting allowing trophy hunters to import tusks and other elephant body parts. Many of these actions are not popular with the public and are legally being challenged in court. I believe these actions will ultimately be overturned as unlawful exercises of presidential or secretarial power. They also show that Secretary Zinke and the Trump administration have abandoned any pretense of a balanced approach to managing federal lands instead of favoring industry over conservation and the taxpayer. The President's budget proposal for 2019 again abdicates responsibility for stewardship of our natural resources and public good. The budget guts key conservation programs and favors energy development at any cost. At a time when the visitation to our national parks is at record levels, the budget proposes cutting management and programs at our national parks instead of maximizing the opportunities for our citizens and for the public. These funding and staffing cuts are made worse by the Secretary's ill-conceived proposal to raise park entrance fees to $70 at some of our nation's most popular national parks, including Mount Rainier and Olympic National Park in my state. This is an almost 300% increase. How does that make sense? The two national parks in my state together have more than 4.8 million visitors a year. Your proposal would increase the park entrance fee and cost visitors to these parks an additional $215 million a year. So the impact on these parks impact the livelihood of businesses and communities throughout my state. And Secretary Zinke, while my constituents are hearing about private jet rides and expensive doors, they want to understand why someone is proposing to raise park fees at this level. I've heard from many Washingtonians, and they are concerned that they won't be able to afford going to the national park and that these fees are absurd. These increases imposed on Americans' public lands are also in sharp contrast to the millions of dollars of royalty reductions that the Secretary is proposing for oil and gas and coal companies. The staffing and budget cuts at our national parks also combined with similar budget cuts at virtually all non-energy programs within the interior shows the administration's failure to recognize the importance of the outdoor recreation economy. Further proof of the administration's efforts is that almost all appropriated funds for the Land and Water Conservation Fund are cut, one of the most successful programs. In fact, the budget goes further by proposing to rescind previously appropriated land and water conservation funds.